Hey guys, today you're going to be learning about powers and exponents, and I know you've learned about this before, so I'm just going to do a quick review. So when you see an exponent like this, we're going to label a couple of parts. The big number is called the base. This is the number that you're going to multiply by itself, okay? And then this guy up here is the actual exponent. And this tells you how many times to multiply the base by itself. Make sure you pause the video to write these notes in your math journal. You definitely need to write these things down, write the notes and the examples that I do, so you can look back later and help yourself. And then this whole thing, the base and the exponent together, is called a power. It's just the term for the whole unit. Okay. There's two ways that we're going to write numbers in this section. We're going to write them in standard form, or we're going to write them in expanded form. And I'm going to show you what both of those look like. So if I'm writing in standard form, I'm just writing the number. 13,549. Just write it all together like that. If I'm writing in expanded form, I'm going to take each place value and write the number out. So, for example, if I'm using that same number that I used in the above example, the ones place represents 10,000. Okay? Keep going. That 3, I'm sorry, I said the ones place last time. I did not mean that. I meant the 1 represents 10,000. The 3 represents 3,000. Because it's in the thousands place. The next number, the 5, represents 500. The 4 represents 40 because it's in the tens place. And then the last digit is just the ones place. So you just add that number on at the end. Okay, so this would be expanded form, writing what each place value stands for with plus signs in between. So this number, 13,549, is the same as 10,000 plus 3,000 plus 500 plus 40 plus 9. Now, they want us to write this in exponents though. This is kind of a new twist. So let's write this expanded form now in exponents, which is not as hard as it sounds. Okay, so to write 10,000 as an exponent, I'm going to write 1 times 10 and then put that 10 to a certain power. And what power I put it to is determined by how many zeros there are after the 1. So if I'm looking here, there's 4 zeros. So I'm going to put that to the 4th power. All right, and then we're just going to add on all the rest of the numbers doing the same thing. So plus 3 times 10, and here I have 3 zeros, so that'll be to the 3rd power. Plus 5 times 10 to the 2nd power because I have 2 zeros. Plus 4 times 10, so you see I'm just taking that beginning number of each one and then multiplying it by 10 to however many zeros there are. For 40, there's only 1 zero. And for 9, there are 0 zeros. So this would be writing this equation in exponent expanded form, which the book is going to ask you to do, and we'll do a couple examples like that, okay? And then we can just add parentheses here to kind of group everything together and clean it up. Okay, so I'm on page 155 now, and I'm doing some examples from the book. And for numbers 4 through 6, it says write each expression using exponents. So the number that I see becomes my base. I see n's, so n is my base. How many n's there are becomes my exponent. There's 3 n's, so that would be n to the third. Okay? Number 5, the number that I see is 7, and how many 7's are my exponent? For number 6, we have 2 bases. So I see a 3 and I see an x. I'm going to leave a little space in between so I can put my exponent on each one. How many 3's do I see? I see 2 3's. How many x's do I see? I see 4 x's. Okay, so that's all there is to that section. Okay, for number 7, it gives us a number, 2,695, and it wants me to write it in expanded form. So to write it in expanded form, first I'm just going to write it out with plus signs in between. So I'm going to say, that's in the thousands place, so I'm going to say 2,000 plus, the 6 is in the hundreds place, 600. The 9 is in the tens place, so plus 90. And then the ones place we just add on at the end. Now I can write it with those exponents. So take whatever number is on the front, so 2 times 10, and then remember how many zeros there are determines the exponent. On 2,000 there's 3 zeros, so it's going to be to the third power. 6 times 10, there's 2 zeros on 600, so that'll be to the second power. 9 times 10, there's only 1 zero. And, hold on, I'm getting my signs confused. And the last one is 5 times 10. Remember, there's no zeros on this one, so it's going to be to the 0 power. Because if you remember back from last year, any exponent that's to the 0 power equals 1. So on that last one, you're basically saying 5 times 1, which is just 5. Okay? And then we can add our parentheses in. And that would be writing it in expanded form. For the last section, it says evaluate each exponent or each expression. So when it says evaluate, now we have to give them an answer. We have to solve it. So 2 to the 4th power. That means I'm going to put 2 in my calculator, and then I'm going to use this little x to the n power. That means I have an exponent, but it's not just squared. It's a different number. So I can put whatever number I want in there. So I'm going to hit the x to the n and put my 4 in, because that's my exponent. And 2 to the 4th power is 16. Okay? That's all there is to it. You're just solving it. Now the next two are a little more complex, but that's okay. We'll just take it one step at a time, and we will solve it. So it says x to the third minus 3 when x equals negative 2. So I'm going to plug this in for the x and solve it. So negative 2, always use parentheses when you have a negative number with an exponent, because if you don't use parentheses in your calculator too, you're going to get the wrong answer. So if you remember your exponent rules, if you have an even exponent like 2, 4, 6, 8, then you're going to have a positive answer. If you have an odd exponent like 3, 5, 7, 9, you're going to have a negative answer if there's a negative on it. So there is a negative on my 2. That means when I do 2 to the third power, my answer is going to be negative because 3 is an odd exponent. All right, so let's put that in our calculator. Okay, so if you have the calculator that I had you buy for my class, you're going to put your parentheses around your negative 3 and then do your exponent, which is that little caret button. It looks like a little point almost. That will give you whatever exponent you want. So you're going to do parentheses, negative 3, close your parentheses, Then push that caret and put it to the third power, okay? On mine, I do not have to use my parentheses. Okay, so negative 27. So negative 3 to the third power is negative 27. And then bring down that minus 3 because we haven't used it yet. Now combine your like terms. Negative 27 minus 3. The signs are the same, so you add the numbers. That's 30. But the answer keeps the sign. So negative 30. All right, let's do the last one. So again, we're going to take this number that they gave us. They said y equals 4, and I'm just going to plug it in there. So I have 5 times 4 minus 1 squared. Now, remember order of operations. We have to use order of operations on this problem or we'll get the wrong answer. So parentheses first. That means I'm going to do 4 minus 1 first. 4 minus 1 is 3. Bring everything else down. Exponents next. So now I'm going to use the exponent. I'm going to do 3 to the second power. So 3 squared is 9. Bring down that 5 because we haven't used it yet. And remember, parentheses mean multiply. So our last step is 5 times 9, which I know is 45. And that's it. All right, so now we're taking everything we've learned from the distributive property, order of operations, solving equations, and we're putting all that together so you can see how helpful it is that we learned each step along the way, and now we're able to evaluate these more complex problems, okay? I'll be right back, and I'm going to do a couple examples for today's IXL to show you how to do that. Okay, so for today's IXL, all you're doing right now is just writing in the exponent for each number. So remember, the number you see is your base, or the number you write, and then how many you see is your exponent. I see 2 16s, so I need an exponent of 2 there. And I see 155, so I need an exponent of 1 there. And I see 1, 2, 3 37s, and I see 2 51s. All right, so let me jump a level and see. All right, we're still doing the same thing. I see 2 12s. I see 153. I see 165. Okay, so now they're adding in variables, but you're still doing the same thing. I see 2 56s. I see 1 S. And I see 1 T. And now they're just mixing up the order, but you're still counting how many of each one you see. So I see 2 of those, and I see 1 of these. I see 2 45s, and I see 2 M's. All right. Now you're writing the whole thing. So you're going to click this little guy. That will give you the base and the exponent. I see the number 3, so that's the base. How many 3's do I see? I see 3 3's. So that one had the same base and exponent. For this one, I see the letter A. And how many do I see? I see 4 A's. Okay, so I think you get the idea of that. All right, so this is just a lot more T's. So I see a T, and how many T's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, and that's all for today. So I will see you next time.